This is a video from Mark Darrah on games. And I believe Mark Darrah either works at BioWare or used to work at BioWare. And the video is titled, "Your $70 doesn't buy you cruelty." So this ought to be interesting. We have 876 likes to 707 dislikes. So yeah, this ought to be interesting.
Did you read the title? Did it say something like your 70?
Hold on, I think I have the speed on super fast. Oh no, it's not. He just talks fast. Huh.
$70 doesn't buy you cruelty. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. The fact that you bought a game that you didn't like doesn't give you the right to be cruel or unkind to the people that developed that game.
Oh boy, we're in for a banger on this one. Spoiler alert, you could be cruel and unkind to anybody you'd like to. Fun fact, you don't even have to buy the game. But okay, slay bro with your social parenting, as Stakes puts it.
Now I'm going to be clear about something. I'm not saying that you have to like the thing you bought. I'm not saying even that you aren't.
I'm just saying that you have to be nice to people after you buy. If you aren't going to be filling with toxic positivity, then you need to reevaluate your life priorities.
Allowed to complain about the thing you bought. You can have whatever opinion that you feel like towards a game. Even if that opinion is stupid and wrong, you are entitled to that opinion. And to some degree, you're entitled to express that opinion to the corporation, to the video game studio that created this game that you bought. You paid 70 of your own dollars for this game, and it disappointed you, and you're angry about that. That is fine. You are entitled to be angry about it, and you're entitled to express that anger in certain channels. If you are mad at that Ubisoft game, be mad at Ubisoft. Express your anger to Ubisoft or to the studio that made the game. But you cross a line when you start being cruel about it.
All right, so just for full context and background on this guy, and shout out to I'm Batman for sending this information to me. This is the about Mark Darrah. I'm Mark Darrah. Let's talk about games. I worked at BioWare from 97 to 2021, working in the game industry, looking to start, just curious about how things work. Listen to someone with over 20 years of experience. Man, this guy loves telling people what to do. I've worked at BioWare for 23 years, all of that directly in game development. Turns out you can apply a lot of the lessons I learned to your everyday. From 1997 until 2008, I worked as a programmer, focused mostly on gameplay systems. From 7 to 2021, executive producer, leading projects. And yes, those two periods do overlap. Games I worked on: Baldur's Gate, Tales of the Sword, Coast, Baldur's Gate 2, Throne of Baal, Neverwinter Nights, Jade Empire, Mass Effect, Sonic Chronicles, Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, Dragon Age Inquisition, Mass Effect Andromeda, Anthem, and some other things. So just for full context of who we're talking about here. Asian Swordmaster with the banger point. We don't listen to Jaffe, so why should we listen to this guy?
So why am I saying you don't get to be cruel because you spent $70? Let's walk through it.
Please indulge me, Mark.
You shouldn't be cruel at all. What are you doing?
So here's the problem that I have right off the bat with this is I kind of get where he's trying to come from, but you do have to bend over backwards to kind of get there, because the definition of what cruelty is the same definition of what hate speech is and what I'm offended by. And it's all the same stuff that's gotten us into the situation that we're in right now, because people have started to limit what you're allowed to say because it offends me. And what you said is not nice. And that's mean words. And sticks and stones break my bones. And the words apparently do even worse things to me, is the world we're living in right now because of people like this. Instead of just saying, yeah, you don't like it, you're being mean to me. All right, cool. F off. Like, I care. Like, learn to take the criticism, deal with it, and move on. You could only imagine the hate, to use their words, or the what was the other, the mean words.
It's a video game.
What do you call it?
Don't need because you spent $70. Let's walk a line when you start being cruel.
Cruel. Sorry, that's the word. Cruel. The cruelty that people have been to me, how cruel people have been to me since I started YouTube 8 years ago. The things they've said, the mean words they've used. And never in a million years would I make a video saying, you guys need to stop being mean to me. You're not allowed to be mean to me. Even if you watch my videos, you're not allowed to be cruel. You can be however the hell you want to be. If you want to indulge my content and hate me, please go ahead and hate me. Plenty of people already do. It doesn't stop me from doing what I do. Now, if people are going to start going further and start suing me, start doxing me in lawsuits, yeah, that's going too far. That's a little bit different, though. Like, this kind of stuff that he's talking about is he doesn't want to deal with any backlash from poor business decisions or poor gameplay decisions. And that is not going to fly.
About it. So why am I saying you don't get to be cruel because you spent $70? Let's walk through it. One,
his whole premise to this doesn't even work anyways, because he's saying if you bought the game, you're not allowed to be cruel, assuming that you're not allowed to be cruel if you don't buy the game. And I'm like, no. Buying the game or not doesn't impact the end result of what you're trying to get at here.
One, you shouldn't be cruel at all. What are you doing? It's a video game. You don't need to go out of your way to cause harm to other people.
Okay, so now we're getting to the lefty words. Cause harm to other people. What words are causing harm to other people? I would never advocate for doxing these employees or personally emailing them or contacting their significant others and stuff like that. That's way out of bounds. No, you don't do that kind of stuff. I would never advocate for suing these people. I would never advocate for any of that. What I would advocate for is your freedom to exercise your right to free speech of, hey, I don't like what you did here. It's fucked up. You guys suck. I feel like you're not talented enough. I feel like the games before you got there were better than they are now. You're allowed to say these things. What you need to define what this cruelty and hate is. It's so ambiguous when you say these words.
Because of a video game that you don't like. Again, I'm not saying you're not allowed to be angry about it. I'm not saying you don't get to express your dissatisfaction with the content of the game that you're not enjoying. But when you climb into someone's personal social media and start actively attacking that person,
I'd agree with that. Yeah, don't do that shit. That's fucked up. If that's his point, then yeah, I think he needs to hit that at the beginning of this and be like, hey, don't personally harass anyone that work at these companies. I agree with that. That's not what he was saying at the beginning of this, though. I almost feel like he's trying to put all these things in the same bucket so that it also limits what people say about the game as well. Curious.
When you celebrate layoffs at a
school. Okay, well, this is different now. Now you throw this in the same bucket. You can't do that. I would never advocate for going after an individual employee or harassing them or contacting them directly. They don't deserve that. No matter how much they suck, they still are a private citizen at the end of the day. Never, ever, ever do that kind of stuff. They're just making their game. They might be woke as fuck. Let business run its course and they'll be out of a job at some point. The industry will heal itself. Do not ever go after these people personally. I agree. But he follows that up with
studio because the game that you don't like didn't do that well.
He follows that up with, Don't celebrate people losing their jobs. That's a completely different topic. Completely different. I would say it's a very based take to celebrate people losing their jobs if those people are the same people that fucked up a franchise that you loved. If they injected their personal agendas, ideologies, and woke politics into that game, fuck yeah, I'm going to be celebrating. I'll be dancing on the grave of that studio and being like, this is what you get. Don't do that shit again. Learn from your mistakes. And I will celebrate that to the end of time. Asmongold had a very good take on this, and I covered that previously. And I was like, holy shit, that's a Dom DeMarco. Like, that was amazing. That's amazing. Like, yes, celebrate these people losing their jobs. There's nothing wrong with that. If they were ruining a game that you loved, do not personally harass these people. Do not attack them. But it is justice at the end of the day.
You're crossing a line into being cruel. And fundamentally, you
don't, no one earns this kind of innocent respect from fucking up a franchise. That's like saying like take from this, because this guy clearly is one of those people that has Elon derangement syndrome. Imagine if Elon came in and bought BioWare while you were working there, buddy. And he was like, hey, we're going a very based direction with our game. Get this transgender stuff out of it. Get all this pandering out of it, this woke bullshit. None of this, no, we're scrapping all this. We're starting over again. Would you say, hey, wait, no, that you can't do that? That's I'm pretty sure you'd be pretty pissed at Elon and you'd be verbalizing it publicly. I'm pretty sure you would. And if not you, I could guarantee you some of your coworkers would have. So what are we doing here?
You should have more grace for other human beings.
If it aligns with your ideology. That you forgot that little asterisk at the end of it. That's why they only see things from their way. It's an echo chamber. It's crazy. The narcissism of these people.
But if you're not buying that, let's go on to point 2. You don't know what caused the results that you don't like. Let's go through an example.
Dragon Age of Veilguard, Corinne Bush, trans scars. So I'm non-binary. Oh, what could have possibly caused it? What about that Trick Weeks? That guy that wrote Tosh? Couldn't possibly have been him. The dude that wrote her or it. couldn't possibly be that. It must have been those corporate overlords that did that stuff.
Let's say that you don't like the line delivery on a piece of dialogue. Is that the fault of the voice actor? It might be, but it could be a lot of other things too. It might be the fault of the person who was directing that voice actor. Maybe they were given...
Okay, so now we're getting straw man arguments that I have not heard anything of before. A good example would be to talk about a real life situation that actually just happened, about why Dragon Age of Veilguard failed. And specifically how Tosh was injected into the game and cutscenes and pulling a barb and all these things, injecting woke ideologies. And then we see who wrote the characters and who was the director of the game. And you're trying to say you don't know where the problem comes from. It's like, no, we're pretty sure where it came from. And these people both don't work there anymore. So we were right.
Very specific instructions to deliver the line in this particular way. Maybe the writer who wrote that line wanted it delivered in this particular way, and the stage direction specified this particular line delivery. Maybe the recording equipment at the voice.
This is emotional manipulation where he's just like, look, guys, it's just this big misunderstanding. Maybe this random situation that literally never happens and nobody's ever complained about could be the problem. It's like, no, that's not what you're even talking about. Why don't you address the actual conversation that you're clearly pandering to?
Studio went down.
Stash My Ass says, what is he even talking about right now? Strawman arguments. So he starts to lose people very quickly when you go into strawman because there's nothing relatable to this.
And the only take they managed to get was this first one that was done just to set the tone. And they were just kind of out of time and stuck with it. So if you go and you
just making
start
excuses, man.
attacking the voice actor for a line delivery you don't like, it might not be them at all. It might be something else. Indeed, it might not be the
if we're gonna play this game of the straw man with the voice actor, I'll play that. I'll play your game, you rogue. If I'm listening to a game, we'll take McDizzle, for example, because I think he has a really annoying voice, even more annoying than my voice. And say McDizzle is a voice actor for a character in Dragon Age of Veilguard. And say you're listening to it and you're just like, oh my God, every time he talks, it's nails on the chalkboard. That is not necessarily McDizzle's fault. That is the hiring director's fault for bringing that person in. But it's also McDizzle's fault because his voice sucks. Again, just an example. Just go with me here. That is the feeling I would have. So he's like, don't direct your hatred at McDizzle for being a voice actor because you don't know where it is. Well, okay, I get where you're coming from, but again, I don't like his voice. So I can say that. Like, this guy's trying to limit what people are allowed to talk about by saying these things. It's like, imagine like Hollywood, where you can't talk about actors in movies, or you can't talk about that Renee or whatever that weird Snow White chick. Like, imagine people saying, "Oh, you're not allowed to talk in a negative way about that person." I'm like, why? Why not? Like, literally, people are allowed to be people and talk about stuff. The only thing I would agree with this guy on is don't get personal with these people. You can express your frustrations all you want online. You can say that these people suck. You can celebrate when they get fired. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Do not attack them personally is where I would draw the line. Rachel Zegler, thank you. That was the name of the person I was thinking of.
The line delivery at all. Maybe the problem was the writing. So should you go attack the writer?
No.
Well, no.
You shouldn't go attack anyone personally. This guy's conflating two different things and trying to make them the same thing.
Because why was the line written in this way? Was it written this way because
this guy's the definition of toxic positivity? He is actually what the problem that the game industry's turned into. I would almost imagine that this guy could have been like David Jaffe back in the day, potentially very based and grounded with takes. And then as they got older, just turned into a hardcore wokey, TDS, pro, trans, like all the stuff that goes along with that mindset. Because he did have a pretty good track record with games until towards the end. And is there a direct correlation to that? Potentially.
Had a specific thing they were trying to say? Maybe it was written this way because there was incredibly tight time pressures due to other externalities on their time.
Great. I'm the customer. Your problems are not my problem. My money is my money. And if I want to make that business exchange and exchange my funds for your game, I would expect it to not have these issues, not have these, oh, wait, there was a time crunch problem. And it kind of had a lot of bugs at the end of the day because, the dog of the director passed away towards the end of the development process, and the director was gone, and everyone just at the office was just really sad, and it just kind of ruined the experience of the game, and nobody could focus. So the game is just not really that great, and it kind of falls apart towards the end, and everything's broken. Okay, I'm really sad about the dog, but why would I buy your game? But RIP Fido. Right, Mike?
Maybe the direction of the game changed radically 3 months ago, and they had to rewrite this entire character in just 3 months.
Exactly.
And you're just getting the first.
He's trying to offload his problems onto the customer. I'm like, that is not the customer's problem. When did we get into this business where the customers have to take on the issues of the companies? That's not how any of this works. It's probably why China's kicking our ass right now with games.
First draft of that writing. Maybe the lead writer wanted this character to be in a specific way. And it
again with the excuses. Like, what are we doing here? This is a terrible video.
What the writer was able to do while they were writing this character. Maybe the creative director
Emotional
on
blackmail,
the project
exactly.
had specific goals that they had in mind, and they were pushing the writing in a particular way or restricting how much leeway the writers had in order to express their vision on what the game was able to do or be. Maybe
so all he's doing is giving example after example after example of excuses for why the game is shit, but you should still buy it and not complain about it. And the fact that he can't hear himself saying this is actually the wildest part about all of it. Like, zero ability to self-reflect.
be the executive producer. All of these people reporting up into the executive producer.
Darksis says, Smash AT, this is why everyone loves Gordon Ramsay. He gives no shit about your excuses. Exactly. It's like, does this food taste good? I don't give a shit what you did. Does it taste good? Yes or no? Great. You're a good chef. That's all that matters. What even is this? This is like the content I live for, just to get into the mind of what these people think like. Like, it is, I love this. This is great.
Producer decided that this game should be different in tone and was pushing the game
By the way, he's still going on different excuses right now. This is like a 2-minute rant on giving excuses for why a game might suck. Which again, I'm left with, why are we going through excuses? Why do any of these matter? The premise of your argument has zero foundation for any kind of structure.
Direction in a different way. Or maybe the leadership of this project changed 6 times and the direction changed 6 times, and you're getting little bits of writing from each of these different directions.
Regardless of everything that I'm saying, please just buy our slop and don't complain.
And there was never adequate time to step back and rewrite it.
This is going off the rails right now. He's still going. There's another excuse. This is great.
The CEO of the entire company really...
I mean, we're at like excuse number 7 or 8 right now. This is amazing. What's up, Kung Fu Hot Dog?
Wanted his nephew to be hired as a script consultant. And this guy with literally zero experience was coming in and
so
pushing for mandatory changes to the project. How realistic are all the things I just said? Some of them are incredibly realistic. Some of them not so realistic, but I've seen things that look an awful lot like all of the things.
This is the quintessential definition of whataboutism, where he's taking these random examples and bringing them all together to try to emotionally manipulate you and make you feel bad for the development of the team. And you know what? If I was ignorant and didn't know any better, I might fall for that. I worked in the game industry for multiple years, and I worked on games as a QA tester. And you know what my job was, guys? To make sure that the bugs weren't in the game. And if I failed at that job, I would expect people to lambast the fuck out of me. I would expect that. Imagine going in to do your job every single day, be a complete fuck up, not do it properly, put a game out there, and then have people complain about you not doing your job right, and then you taking the perspective of, hey, miss me with that cruelty and hate, because I'm a human being. I don't deserve this. That is the summary of what this video is.
Things I just said.
Yeah, this is gaslighting, Sebrew. This is gaslighting 101, a course and introduction to it. The best part about it is, I don't think he even knows he's doing that.
So when you decided to personally attack that one specific person on social media, how certain are you that it was their fault?
Oh my God. Cry me a river, bro. They have this thing. It's a wild function on social media. It's called the block button. It's amazing. So when you click it and you press block, that goes away. That criticism that you can't take just disappears. But the problem is with you and all the other wokies is in a weird way, you feed off of that criticism. You feed off of that hatred because you know it empowers you. It makes you feel like you're somewhat important in this world, and you suck at your job and you're like, if I complain about what people are complaining about, then I'll get virtue signal points and people will pat me on the back for just merely existing.
That they are responsible for that thing that you don't like. And I'm going to tell you right now, you shouldn't be certain because you don't know exactly.
Again, he's putting the blame on the customer. This is kind of the problem. This guy's retired. I almost said the word wrong. He might be the other thing too, but he is retired. He's very retired. And this is kind of like the leaving the house and throwing a grenade and closing the door behind you type thing and just blowing it up. Like he's just like, I don't give a fuck. I got nothing to lose. I made my money and I got out of the industry. Now I'm a wokey, so I can just preach and tell people what to do and what not to do. Meanwhile, everyone's like, whoa, bro, shut the hell up. What are you doing?
Exactly what was going on within the project. You don't know the exact circumstances that resulted in that thing.
And what's this guy's name? Mark Darrah. Mark, you don't know the exact circumstances of what leads someone to complain about something they're complaining about. You're making a lot of assumptions about the complainer right now. And sure, people can be aggressive, vicious, rude, cruel, mean. They can say awful things about you. I get it literally daily. Like at this point, I just, it's kind of like one of my just, when I'm scrolling through Twitter with all the mentions I get, I just roll my eyes now. I'm just like, oh, there's another one, like whatever. I don't even block. If it's just someone being cruel to me, I just mute them. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I used to take it personally. I used to be like so affected by it. And like the more it kept going, the more numb I got to it. It's almost like these people just never really understood that people care about what they're doing. And I would argue more and more these days, there are people that game that care more about the game that they're gaming than the people working on the game themselves. And that's an issue. And that brings us back to the whole DEI conversation where we're getting people injected into these game companies that might not necessarily have a passion for the games they're working on. And oh, by the way, on top of that, might not have the skills necessary to be successful in those roles. So keep making excuses for them, I guess.
You didn't like. Even people.
Tiger King says this dude should stream with Jaffe. Oh my God. I would donate money to that stream. I would love to see them just get each other off for a stream. That would be amazing.
Who were on the project aren't always
metaphorically, for God's sakes, allegedly,
to be absolutely certain on who is responsible for something being exactly a particular way. These projects have hundreds of people on them. Content moves around between multiple people. Unless I am the person who is actually responsible for something being a certain way, that chain of custody isn't always going to be super obvious to me.
This strikes me as like a YouTube video from like someone with like 8 subscribers and it's just starting out on YouTube and they think they understand the YouTube world. And I'm like, this is one of those, I'm like, bro, don't publish that video. This is not the own you think it is.
And all of this isn't to say that you aren't allowed to have your own opinions.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. This is him trying to run cover for himself right now to be like, hey, I know I just said all this other stuff, but let me now completely contradict it and say, oh, you know how I said you couldn't say that stuff? Sure, you can. Just don't say it in a way that I don't like it being heard.
To not like the things you don't like. It's specifically to point out that you being angry at a specific person, you attacking a specific person, is often misdirected. If you feel like you're just not getting the satisfaction from yelling at the corporate Twitter channel or yelling at the studio director.
Now they keep saying yelling, by the way. What is this yelling word? I'm pretty sure on social media it's text. So how do you know it's yelling? Is it just they see all caps and they just insinuate yelling from the all caps? Sean Hampshire says borderline censorship. I strongly disagree. This is not borderline at all. This is straight up censorship. There's no borderline about what he's saying right now. These people are actually the problem.
Correctly. If you feel like you need
Mark's Master says, I'm yelling now.
To focus it down onto an actual human being, I mean, that's really sad. I'm sorry. That's very sad. And
there's only one thing that's really sad right now. It's not the people you're talking to.
Hopefully you can grow beyond that. But I will give you a couple of
Hey, what are you going to say next? I'll pray for you? Like, what? Hopefully you can grow beyond that. This is amazing.
Outlets. If you need to complain at a human being, I'm going to say you don't get to go lower than the first person in the credits. You can go higher than that, but no lower than that. The first person in the credits is the person who was, theoretically at least, in charge of the project.
Okay, so I'll give him credit here. Okay, this is a multi-headed dragon that needs to be slayed here. Theoretically, I don't disagree with him on the standpoint of go with the head person, don't go with the people below them, because you don't know what's going on with them. You don't know who's really the problem, this, that, the other thing. Except for the thing he doesn't mention here. And it's very convenient that he leaves it out, because this is a very utopian, idealistic, dare I say, communistic approach to a topic, where it's just like, hey guys, all things being equal, just go with the people at the top and go with them. Fair. What happens though? I know it's crazy to say this, but what happens when the people below the guy at the top are saying crazy shit on social media, or are coming at the fans or coming at the gamers at things that they disagree with? Are they still not approachable? Are they not allowed to be like interacted with? Why are they allowed to throw punches but not get punches back? And that's where this argument falls apart. At the end of the day, if you're on social media and you say who you are and you tell people who you are, expect to get criticism, expect people to come at you, expect not everyone to like you. You take the good with the bad and you do your job. If you don't want that, don't put your profile banner of who you are. Don't say in your profile what you do, and don't put like your company logo and everything, and don't put rainbow flags and everything. Just don't be on social media. If you want to dance, that's the dance. Like that, you don't get to dictate the dance unless you go to Blue Sky. Then I guess you can dictate the dance over there. But if you're going to X, the dance is something where everyone is going to talk. And it's just how it is. I can't stand when this guy's saying things like, oh, only talk to the people at the top and above. Oh, the people that completely ignore you, those people. Oh, and those aren't the people coming at me. It's the people below that person. Oh, that's weird. That's weird. Oh, and these people have the ability to not go on social media or block the people they don't like or mute them, and they still find a way to complain and cry. I can't.
They are the person.
And we're only halfway through this video. Holy crap.
Where at least some of the responsibility is going to lie. Now, did they have full control over what was going on in the project? No, because you could still have the CEO of.
And here's the other thing too, by the way. I know I keep pausing this every 3 seconds, but there's so much I have to say about this. Being someone that worked in the game industry before, gamers are a very passionate group of people. And there is a certain segment of the gaming population that is a little bit off, we'll say, which actually is really no different than any certain segment of any group. There's you go to any group of people, there's always going to be a certain segment of people that are just take things too far, a little bit off, a little bit kooky. For some reason, this guy's trying to, I wasn't going to say it on Batman, but yes. heavily on the spectrum, we'll say. There are those people in every walk of life. So this guy's trying to lambast an entire community for a couple bad apples and trying to make it sound like everyone is that evil, awful person that's going to throw a lawsuit at someone and dox their address and say awful things about them. It's like, no, there's only a few people in this world. Some might say there's only one person in this world that will do that kind of thing. But I mean, I'm not going to name names because it could be anybody.
Of the company, forcing them to use his stupid nephew as a script consultant. But at the very least, they were in charge of the project for a somewhat significant.
So nepotism. So accept the problem of nepotism is running rampant in the game industry, and that's a major problem. And you're trying to excuse that because it's like, oh, well, he's the nephew. He doesn't know any better.
Percentage of the time. So if you are mad about Anthem and we look at the credits, no shit, that's me. But yeah, if you feel...
man, they still don't know how to make jokes. Humor is still lost on lefties, isn't it? I do give him credit for the attempt, though. He gave it a good shot. Problem was, I knew exactly where he was going with that before he even said anything.
Feel like you need to yell at somebody for the way that Anthem is. It's much better to be yelling at someone like me, who...
the guy who definitely can't take any criticism based off this 14.5-minute video.
Who was theoretically in charge of the project, or at least in charge of the project for some of the development time, than yelling at someone who was working on the combat or the level design or whatever. Because again, you don't know exactly what their reality was.
All right. Speaking of reality, I'm glad he brings this up. The reality is, as much as you try to kick and scream and try to change the world to say you're not allowed to say certain things to certain people and you get to dictate the rules of that, the reality is when you jump into the gaming world and want to become a developer, you need to understand that if you're going to make yourself publicly available on social media and make your profile out there for everyone to find you, that people will find you, because this is an industry of very passionate people. And if you don't want that to come at you, don't be involved in it. It's really that easy. The problem is they want their cake and they want to eat it too. Like, oh, we want to be a part of it, and we only want people to praise us. We only want people to say we're amazing. Even if we put out a shit product, we only want people to buy it and smile and say, that slop was delicious. Could I have another course, please?
When I was an executive producer, I got paid pretty well. And to some degree, from my perspective, some of that compensation.
I would say executive producer at BioWare, I wouldn't be surprised if he was making like $450, $500 a year. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, especially with those years of experience, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Compensation was to act as a lightning rod.
And also that includes like benefits with EA stock and stuff like that.
For this negative discourse. It's one of the reasons why I think it is an executive producer's responsibility to have a social media presence. Because some of you, if you're still watching, will play a game and be angry about it and need to yell at a human being. And
I think here's the thing. They want the attention only if it's good. But what they're not realizing is there's a lot of hate that a lot of people get. Like, take, for example, me. I get plenty. I've seen an uptick in it from the McDizzle situation. Not shocking. I fully expected it. Not my first day on the tubes, and I know exactly how this goes. It comes in a wave, and it will go away, and we move on from it. But people that are new to it, maybe not so expecting of it, and it will kind of catch them off guard, and it's not for everybody. But taking that into account, there are shills that will push games, and they get plenty of flack, especially on social media. Someone like Booty Adams, or Paris, or Alyssa Mercante, or like anyone that seems to tend to promote certain games and visit studios and get perks, there's a certain viewpoint that people have when they see that stuff happen. And they're going to get flack from the community for putting it out there publicly. Lixamos, thank you so much. That's kind words. Appreciate that. Look at this. I get some toxic positivity with all the negativity. I appreciate that. I'll take it all.
I think one of the executive producer's responsibilities is to protect his team. And part of protecting his team is providing that lightning rod. If you don't provide that lightning rod, then people who need to vent are going to find places to vent.
Again, I feel like he's speaking from personal experience, but he's not providing an example to reference. So right now he's just speaking in generalities, and that doesn't work in a situation like this, because I could speak in generalities right back to him and say the people that he's trying to protect are sometimes the problem. They're the people that are out there on social media pushing racism, hatred, aggression, anti-gamer sentiment that riles up the entire community. Do those people just get a free pass and they're allowed to do it because they work at the company? Like, no, that's not. Like, there's two sides to this coin, bro. You're only showing one side of it.
We live in a social media world. Many people have some form of social media presence. If you, as the most senior person on the project, don't have a social media presence, then people are going to go and find someone else, someone who isn't paid as well as you, someone who doesn't necessarily have the tools to protect themselves from the toxicity that is leveled at them.
All right, so here are the tools. As a leader on the team, it is your responsibility to protect your team, and I understand that. Sounds like you were really terrible at doing that, so let me give you some advice, even though you're retired. If you do not have a strong social media presence as the leader of a team, you need to have a conversation with your team and tell them, hey, this is what the industry is like. This is what social media is like. If you are going to move forward and have a social media presence, if you're going to tag at our company in your bio and say, this is where I work and what I do and what I'm working on right now, you should need to expect that you're going to be found and people are going to give you some flack. No matter how good that you could make the greatest game in the world, by the way, it doesn't even matter if the game's shit. There's always going to be someone that finds something wrong or takes issue with something and gets mad at you. So you have the option of either removing all that and having people not find you and being anonymous, or being public and expecting it because you're public. Like, welcome to being public. You are now a public figure while you're out there publicly telling everyone what you do, working on this game that people are paying money for. I would argue. I think that's what this comes down to, is maybe that's where the disagreement is the gray area, where he's thinking that these people aren't public figures. And I'm arguing, well, yeah, they are kind of. If their names are in the credit of a game and they're working on the game and their social media presence is tagging their company and tagging their position, you could argue that that is a public figure because they're working on something you're purchasing and they're out there telling you that. Like, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's where this is coming down to. And he's arguing only the rules for his team are welcome, but the rules for everyone else, you're not allowed to be like that. Daniel Sensing says, 100%, this guy has stuff in his closet.
I would say, again, that you shouldn't be targeting people directly, even the executive producer. But you know what? If you feel the need, the higher up in the organization you go, the more I'm going to say, have at her. As you get beyond.
Okay, so now he's encouraging people to attack people in the organization. As long as they're higher up. The higher up they are, the harder you can go at them. I do not agree with this sentiment whatsoever. I do not endorse what he's saying at all. Just to be clear about that. like yikes, bro. What are you doing right now?
Beyond the executive producer, and you get up into studio leadership and group leadership and the C-suite and the person in charge of the entire corporation.
Exactly. Swami One says executives aren't even aware of what's going on. Exactly. Like, that's the problem. Why would someone go up to like Andrew Wilson and be like, "Hey, your game Dragon Age of Veilguard is shit." He'd be like, first off, he probably doesn't even look at his social media. He's too busy golfing or playing tennis or riding on his yacht.
They share responsibility in the game you don't like being the way that it is. So if you feel the need to yell at them, again, probably don't, but they're big boys and girls, so they should be able to handle it. The reality is, most of those people do not have a social media presence, do not have a way that you can yell at them directly. So a lot of times what I'm telling you is the least senior person you're allowed to yell at is the executive producer. And a lot of times the most senior person you're going to be able to yell at is the executive producer. So once again, the executive producer serves as a lightning rod for all this vitriol. If you feel like you're not being listened to when you complain on Metacritic or you complain on the forums of a studio or you complain into the social media channels of the publisher or the studio, be aware that this stuff is carefully scrutinized, not just by the social media.
Is that a veiled threat? What?
Teams, also by the teams themselves. Arguably, in a lot of cases, to too great of a degree. The team is listening, I would say, often too much to what you are yelling about and complaining about in these channels.
Okay, so again, Mark Darrah, I hate to do this to you, but I would pin that on you. That is bad leadership. If the team is listening too much to the outside hate, as you put it, or cruelty or vitriol, you are the leader of the team. You need to reel people in and let them know what the situation is. You sound like you're a really shitty leader, and now you're blaming everyone else except yourself and not taking any ownership. This is wild.
But don't worry, you don't need to go onto their Twitter channel and yell at them directly because they're going to hear it anyway. Be a human being, have some empathy, and stop being cruel. Stop throwing a party because a bunch of people lost their jobs.
Lord help me with this one. This man should be old enough to understand this and know better, and clearly he doesn't. But nobody guarantees anybody a job in this world. That's a very communistic, Marxist approach to life, where everyone deserves the job that they have, and it should be supported by the government entities to keep them in that position. I don't know about you guys. I live in a capitalistic society, and I'm very happy that I do, where the greatest rise, the cream goes up, and the shit falls to the bottom. And if you suck, if you ruin, especially an established property that people love, again, I've said it before, you're damn right we'll be dancing on the grave of that. I don't really think that's egregious or wild to say, that you do not deserve the position you had. It's a very heavy responsibility to work in the game industry and produce a magnificent product. And if you're too woke or too broken or untalented or DEI ideologically injected, get out of the industry. This is reality teaching you that you do not belong in the industry if you cannot do those things. The problem is, over the past few years, there's a lot of people that do not have that passion, do not have that drive, do not have the talent to put forth and make a great experience. So instead, they've now boiled down to, stop being mean to me because the game isn't as good as you expected it to be. Oh, fuck you. I'm not paying $70 for your shit. Get the fuck out of the industry. It's slop. You suck. You deserve to be dragged out of the industry. Like that's the reality. I don't know how else to put this. we're not going to be playing with kid gloves here. This is the big leagues, bro. This is like the top of the top. You're working at these AAA studios with multi-million, hundreds of millions of dollars in products. And if you can't make a good product with that kind of money, you should not be there. And people should be excited that you're getting out of the industry. That's literally how this all works. What?
Because you don't know the circumstances that resulted in the thing that you're mad at.
I can't even watch this for like 5 seconds without pausing it. Everything he says is just a knife to my heart right now. Holy crap.
People deserve some grace. People deserve some empathy.
And everyone deserves a trophy. Everyone.
From you. And if you can't provide that, then stay off the internet completely.
Great. If you don't like it, don't buy it. AKA. Let's see how that works out for him. It's a bold move, Cotton.
One last time for the cheap seats. You are entitled to your opinion. You are entitled.
He has contradicted himself in a near infinite amount of times in 14 minutes and 27 seconds, where he continues to go back and forth and yo-yo between it's totally fine to be critical, but don't be critical to the people working on the game. But it's fine if you are critical about the game, but just don't be mean to the people working. Pick a lane, bro. Like, which one is it? Which one is it?
Entitled to be angry about a game that you bought. You paid good money for it. But try to remember that it's just a game. Even more important.
And it's try to remember, guys, it's just $70. It's just $70. It's really no big deal. It's not. This is the problem. He's not looking at it like a video game. He's not looking at it like a sprawling, exciting adventure, a passionate playthrough that you've been looking forward to for years, sometimes decades in some cases. He's looking at it as a product that you eat that slop and ask for more.
Importantly, when you are expressing your complaints, stay away from cruelty. Stay away.
Again, you're going to need to define what cruelty is, because that's a very ambiguous word that doesn't really mean anything.
From target.
Like if he's talking about
individual.
If he's talking about like doxing people that work at these companies, I would say, yes, please do not do that. That's a bad thing to do. I do not agree with that at all. I disavow that completely. I don't understand what cruelty is to this person, though. Victor Castillo says criticism is not cruelty. And some criticism, by the way, can be very aggressive. It can be. But at the end of the day, it comes from a place, by the most part, a place of passion. And even some of my worst detractors have provided me insight to make me be better, which probably makes them even more angry at me. But I think deep down, people want to see a little bit of themselves represented in the person that they're supporting. I'm not saying they have to 100% be there and be, but they want to make sure that they're not going crazy. You know what I mean?
People stay away from trying to cause harm. Stay away from celebrating harm done to actual human beings.
Okay, now we're going to need to define harm. We've gone from cruelty to harm. Now we're harming individuals. His logic, his words. We are harming individuals by celebrating people losing their jobs. I got to tell you, Mark, there will never be a day where I don't celebrate someone losing their job if they suck at their job in an industry that I love. Like, there will never be a day. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be like, oh, man, they should have kept that person. Even though they're terrible and shouldn't be there. They should have kept that person. Now, I don't wish ill on these people. I don't want them to be living under a bridge or have their life go into shambles. I don't want that for any of them. I want them to take this as a learning experience to either be better or get the fuck out of the industry and find a different job and a different career. But the problem that I'm seeing right now is this is kind of the growing pains of the industry of moving to a better place, is the rot of the industry is trying to hang on so tight when it doesn't belong there. And the industry is moving past the rot and it's clinging onto it so tightly. And it's saying, no, I'm part of this industry. Don't leave me. And it's like, no, you should have never been here in the first place.
Beings. Express your opinion to the company that made your game. Tell them what you like. Tell them what you don't like. Be specific. It will help you get games that are more like what you want. But when you are personally attacking individual devs,
again, need to describe and define these words. You can't keep saying these words. These are lefty words that mean absolutely nothing. We've heard them a million times. These are like the ist words or the phobe words. It's like cruelty or attacking. What do you mean? What words? What happens? Show me examples.
You are crossing a line and you're probably attacking the wrong person anyway. A special thanks to my members. They provide the resources that this channel needs to keep running. If you're interested in becoming a member,
I mean, this guy's his grift is not going to work. This is not it, bro. I don't know how to tell him, but this is what he's doing. Is not what people want.
There is a link to that down in the description. We also have a Patreon if you are more comfortable supporting the channel in that way.
Okay, he's got more Patreons. Oh, Trick Weeks! Represent! I even gave him a shout out during this video. Trick Weeks is one of his Patreon. That's the guy that made Tosh and then got let go after the game completely failed. Oh, I'm in the way of it. Hold on. There he is. There's Trick Weeks right there. Shout out to Trick Weeks, the creator of Tosh, who's, of course, supporting this guy because why wouldn't he?
Okay. Both Patreons.
Oh, and Karen Weeks, his significant other, because God only knows what the hell their relationship is. But I'm not going to get into that here.
And members get access to our community. So if you are interested in interacting with the community as a whole, that's an excellent way to do so. I'm not sure that I'm going to ask you to provide.
Who else we got here? Anyone else I recognize? Nope, no one else I recognize there.
Add a comment on this video. We'll see what happens with these comments if they go really toxic.
Oh, there it is. Yes, we got the toxic word dropped. Boom. Oh my God, these NPCs are all the fucking same. Every single one of them. Put the computer chip in the back of my head and let me go. Here we go.
Then maybe I end up turning the comments off completely on this video.
Yeah, if it gets too much hate, I'll just turn off speech altogether. If I'm not allowed to control this room, I will just shut down what you're allowed to say.
Probably not, because as I said, I have lots of experience interacting with toxic people.
After watching this video for 13 minutes and 55 seconds, I have concluded, in my humble opinion, that this person is a retard. Like, straight up. There's no other way around it. There's just that is my personal opinion of how this guy comes across. Which, as much as he wants to take that away from me, thankfully I live in a place that allows me to feel this way about things and have the freedom of speech to say those things. And they don't want you to say that.
And I do recognize that some people do not have the level of maturity required to keep their toxic comments to themselves.
V, I hope that's not actually you at the bottom right there. I'm hopeful that's a different V. Oh man, this is brutal. This is brutal. Some of these names I'm seeing here are vaguely familiar. That's the word toxic he's used 3 times in the past 20 seconds. Trolling him would be considered toxic to him. Yes, it would. Anything but toxic positivity would be considered toxic to him, ironically. I'm Batman says, and D-Man follows him on X. Probably not as a fan. Probably not. You're right. Kara says, probably a job for Master of the TDS to uncover. 100%. 100%.
Themselves. So probably the comments stay open on this channel. If you have some positive things to say, I'd love to hear it. I will see you again soon. Thank you.
I am positive that you are not all there, in my opinion. Is that black screen at the end? 2 names. That was so bad. That was actually, I got to give it a dislike. I'm sorry. I hate to do it. I hate to give dislikes, but that was really so bad that I have to give it a dislike.